Quite simple, really. Things or society and organizations are becoming much more complex. And if something is more complex, then it also becomes more difficult. So you could say one way of describing this is that if you compare an organization today with a similar organization in the 50s, you have approximately 6 to 7 times more objectives that we expect from these organizations. So these are in general good things, right? We have, in a simple way, higher expectations of an organization today. But what is the problem with having a lot of objectives? It is that objectives doesn't necessarily strive towards in the same direction. So you have trade-offs, like in cost. You want low cost, you want high quality, and so on. And with lots of objectives, very difficult trade-offs. So this creates problems both to the organizations and also to the individuals or the employees of the organization. And I'll explain why. First of all, if you take the organization, you could say that our traditional way of organizing, which has been focusing on effectiveness rather than intelligence, we try to foresee things and coordinate what people do through what's called structures. It's organizational schedules, it's objectives, it's processes, systems, and so on. And these structures, if they try to contain all these 6 times more objectives, the organization in turn has become 35 times more complex. The other problem, apart from this double complexity, is that if you have a high level of specialization in an organization, the organization tends to start surprising itself. Because you try to solve problems through specialized units, and if you have a lot of them, it's harder and harder to sort of coordinate their instructions in advance. Instead, they end up in the core business of the organization, and they need to coordinate the instructions from different specialized units. So this is the problem for the organization. The other problem is for the individuals or the employees of the organization, which also have a problem with too high levels of complexity. And that's because what people need in able to both, feel good or be healthy and be able to do things good, to operate well in an organization, is what's called a sense of coherence. And it means that you can, it's basically 3 factors that gives you your sense of coherence. The first one is comprehensibility. You understand what's going on, you understand the environment you're within, right? The other part is manageability. It means that you know what you can do in order to influence things around you. And the third one is meaningfulness. That is, it's worth for you to spend energy at this task or in this environment. So if you have these 3 factors, you are able to deal with quite complex environments and, so to say, stay healthy, stay mentally healthy. But just imagine you take one of these factors out, you don't really comprehend what's going on, or you don't know how you can influence things. You immediately feel it's it doesn't feel good in the stomach, right? So this sense of coherence is also becoming harder for the individual to achieve on their own in the complex organization, because it is much more specialized. It basically means that you become more dependent on your colleagues to create your own sense of coherence. And it's created in all these moments of collaboration that goes on in an organization and that you participate in. So you can say the good thing is that to both these problems, the problem of complexity to the organization and to the individual, it's basically the same solution. It points towards what we call the microsystems of the organization, which is basically all the moments of cooperations that an organization have. It could be teams or management teams, groups, projects, and so on, but it could also be more temporarily situations where people cooperate in order to coordinate things, right? And if you think about all the micro moments, or the microsystems, all these moments of cooperation, they will have in an organization different levels of quality. You could think about them in what we call a normal distribution. In a certain organization, you will have some of these microsystems will be working at the highest level of cooperation, where people are really listening and using the knowledge they have as a collective in the situation, right? And about as many top level teams you will have in an organization, you will have about the same level of really bad teams that are cooperating on worst possible level. You could actually say that there's no limit to how bad a team can cooperate, or the things that they can, the situations they can create. But the most important thing is not these extremes really, but it's, if you think about most microsystems or most corporational situations in your organization will be on average level, of course. So this, you can think about the background here. We have a more complex world, we have more complex organizations. It means that your average team or your average microsystem must become more and more skillful in cooperating, of course. So you could say that the basic idea of creating a more intelligent organization, and actually a more healthy organization to the employees, is to start trying to move this whole normal distribution to the right, which is also a good way of seeing the problem, because instead of implicitly assuming that all teams need to be at this top level, that's not actually the solution. Instead, if you just move every level a bit to the right, to a higher level, you will get an exponential effect. It means that small movements in all microsystems will create a large improvement for the whole organization. So it's as important perhaps to move a bad team to a little bit worse, or sorry, just a little bit better, than moving an already, average team to become more better in cooperation. So that's the whole background. And if you want to create this kind of improvement, general improvement in an organization, the solution is something we call team debrief. It is a way of introducing or problematizing cooperation in the whole organization, so that people become more aware of how they integrate their knowledge and how they teamwork. So team debrief is a super simple idea. It just means that the team on a regular basis discuss how they cooperate. And the reason this is the most effective way is that all teams have different situations, different problems, different resources. So you cannot just have a general idea on how everybody improves. Instead, it's better that they start talking about what they need, what could be helpful, and so on. So this is the team debrief concept. And if you introduce that on a regular basis, of course, today most teams will start asking themselves, so what should we be talking about? What is cooperation? How does it work? What's the important, what's prioritized, and so on. And therefore we have developed this tool called CI Boost, which is basically an application that is supposed to support teams as they start doing team debriefs. It sort of takes their hand and hold their hand through the process, give them different ideas on how they can work on this, and then in time they can start working on their own with improving their collective intelligence in small steps. So that's the idea and the background.